Tommy, listen to me. He is the contractor. He's the contractor, okay? I can't lose this job. I understand. Let's talk about this in the morning, okay? We'll talk about it in the morning. All right, good night.
Hey.
Scoot.
Yo, what's up? My name is Blessing, and this is OK Beast Mode. Everyday life, a boring concept on paper, yet somehow fascinating when presented in the form of a video game. This is because we often come to games to experience fantasies, stories that we would not experience in the real life. The Last of Us is no different, but what happens when we're thrown into The Last of Us and instead of the post-apocalyptic story that we're expecting, we're instead greeted with a story of a family, a daughter and a father? What happens when we're introduced to a world that is familiar to us? Let's discuss.
OK Beast Mode Episode 9, The Last of Us Opening, Deconstructed.
Monday at work, huh?
What are you still doing up? It's late.
The Last of Us has possibly the best introduction in any game I've ever played. It does this by subverting the established rules which dictate how a video game should begin.
Crud, what time is it?
It's way past your bedtime.
But it's still today.
Honey, please not right now. I do not have the energy for this.
Here,
What's this?
your birthday?
The Last of Us is a game about stealth, resource management, shooting, and brawling. The introduction has none of that. The Last of Us's introduction turns the concept of what a video game opening should be and focuses on introducing to the player what we are familiar with: a home, a family, birthdays. By taking full control of the pacing and creating an environment that the player can identify with, The Last of Us creates a controlled opening that guides you through a series of emotions that ends with an impact, even if you likely know what's coming. When you start up The Last of Us, you probably at the very least know that it is a post-apocalyptic tale of two people, Joel and Ellie. That then means we can deduct a few things from the moment the opening of The Last of Us begins. 1. Things are probably going to go badly. And 2. Joel's daughter probably isn't going to make it. There's no reason for us to believe that she's going to make it past this opening sequence. She was in none of the promotion material for the game. But even though her fate is predictable, the developers of The Last of Us still use her as a powerful tool. Of course, her relationship with Joel and her fate are used to foreshadow and develop Joel's relationship with Ellie.
I mean, all this stuff was just lying there.
What else did you get?
Well, here. This make you all nostalgic?
You know, that is actually before my time. That is a winner, though.
Every time I play through the first 15 minutes of The Last of Us, I get teary-eyed by the end, even though I know what's coming every single time. Sarah and Joel's relationship is established very quickly. The opening scene is all about this. In this first scene, we get Joel stressed out about work, his daughter asleep on the couch. She wakes up when he turns on the lights. She gives him an unexpected gift for his birthday. In between all of this, they're cracking jokes and laughing. The scene ends with Joel putting her to bed. It's a simple flow of events, but it lightens us up to the characters, shows their love for each other, and establishes that they are like your everyday family. They are like us. That is important because when things start to fall apart, their relationship manifests in a way that breaks our hearts in that moment as much as it tenders our hearts in this one.
Hello?
Sarah, honey, I need to get your daddy on the phone.
Uncle Tommy, what time is it?
I need to talk to your dad now. There's something...
Uncle Tommy? Hello?
Sarah is the first person we take control of in The Last of Us. This is interesting for a few reasons. Firstly, it's unexpected. Secondly, by having the player take control of Sarah, the player is in a place of vulnerability. It's not very often you take control of a 12-year-old girl in a violent AAA action game. In this scene, Sarah is confused and alone. Something bad is happening. You, as a player, especially internalize this because, as the player, you have a good idea of what's up. But there is still concern of how this scene will play out. The choice to have the player control Sarah ultimately creates a good storytelling opportunity and allows Naughty Dog, the developers of the game, to pace the story carefully. That's what this 15-minute opening is about, pacing. The opening sequence lasts for about 15 minutes, but in this time, a lot of things happen. More things than you might realize. We go from celebrating Joel's birthday to everything he loves being ripped from him. We see the fall of society. We see Joel and his daughter's relationship. We see Joel and his brother. We see pandemonium and the cost of survival. We see the cruelty of enforcement, but most importantly, we see a short story told and wrapped up that sets the precedent for what's to come. I say The Last of Us's intro was all about pacing because, on the surface, it is slow and plodding, and yet it jam-packs so much content in there along with context for the rest of the story. Sarah is a narrative tool used to foreshadow and strengthen Joel's relationship with Ellie. The story hinges on this relationship. We know Joel's pain. We understand what Sarah meant to him because, in a way, by not only giving us context for her, but by giving us control of her, Sarah means a lot to us, the player. We experience these moments as and with Sarah. Joel's relationship with Ellie is awkward and yet turns meaningful as the story progresses, and that is all because of Sarah. Sarah is the reason Joel is initially rejective of Ellie. Sarah is the reason Joel is eventually accepting of Ellie. Sarah is the reason why Joel is protective of Ellie, and the climax of the story hinges and resolves based on Joel's past experience with Sarah. In a way, we, the player, are Sarah watching the story play out. We were there in the beginning, and we understand in the end. Sarah is the centerpiece of this opening sequence. I think it is important to note that in this sequence, you are never given a gun. You are given only two gameplay options: move and interact. This allows the focus of the sequence to be more about the narrative experience than the gameplay experience. That's not to say that the gameplay experience is bad or non-existent. The Last of Us's opening is a great example of how a narrative experience can make for a great gameplay experience. The only thing you do during these first 15 minutes of the game is walk and watch, and yet absolutely none of that time is spent in boredom. Naughty Dog could have decided that the first 15 minutes were to be a shorter cutscene. Why not? The reason this method wouldn't have worked out for this bit is because much of the effect would have been lost. Giving the player control, even if in reality the player doesn't truly have control, creates a false sense of urgency. This is important. It turns Joel and Sarah's story into our story, and there's no better way to connect with the player. The Last of Us is a game about hope. The opening of the game ends with much of that hope being lost. It's a powerful moment that not only as a contained sequence deserves praise, but that deserves acknowledgement for how it ripples and affects the rest of the story. There's a lot done in these 15 minutes, and what is done makes for one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. Thank you for watching.
I want to pick you up. I know, baby. I know it hurts. Come on, baby. Please. I know, baby. I know. Sarah. Baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on. No. No. No, no, no. Please. 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 Please don't. Please.
Thank you so much for checking out OK Beastmode. If you enjoyed it, you should totally subscribe, like, and comment to let me know what you think. My name is Blessing. You can also find me on Twitter at Blessing Jr. You can find the OK Beast podcast on iTunes, and you can find more content right here on OK Beast.